When I think about the 2010s in beauty, I think big, everything big, like BBLs, Kylie's lips, bushy brows. But now, thin is in. We're kind of in the stage where everything is rewinding back to the 90s. You see it in fashion, you see it in makeups. Whoever thought that skinny eyebrows would come back? But we're also seeing it in body types. That whole 90s like Kate Moss, heroin chic vibe is back, and is all thanks to Ozempic.
Welcome to GlowJob, the beauty podcast that's more than skin deep. We're the only podcast to make you hotter and smarter.
So let's just think about celebrity culture for a second. Who were the biggest celebs of the 2010s?
Kim Kardashian,
Kate Upton,
Ashley Graham,
Sofia Vergara.
all curvy ladies.
They were literally dominating everywhere, like earning the most money, kind of top of their industries. And yeah, kind of after that, nowadays, everybody just wants to be as thin as humanly possible. They want as much clavicle showing, as many ribs as possible. You know, they want to look skeletal again.
Things are always cyclical, right? When it comes to fashion, when it comes to beauty, and particularly beauty standards of what is considered beautiful. I feel like Gen Z is finally discovering the 90s. It is so vintage to them.
You know, it was so funny. I was scrolling on TikTok and I came across this one of like, oh, have you guys heard of this model? Blah, blah, blah. It was Claudia Schiffer.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And I'm like, really, guys? But I mean, it makes sense. The aesthetic is everything, but I think it begs a lot of questions around like, can body types or like body aesthetics be trending? But I think for the first time, what is different from like 90s and heroin chic is instead of, you know, heroin and fad diets like Atkins diet, you know, what was it? The Palm Beach diet, all these different diets. You can now biohack your way, which is very 2020. You can biohack your way into being thin.
And biohacking also feels like a very interesting branding opportunity here. Some might call it a misnomer in some cases, but you know what? C'est la vie. It's the world we live in.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of biohacking is just like abusing, like whether it's like abusing drugs or like in a lot of ways, just like abusing your body to like reach your fitness goals. I don't know. For me, an ice plunge is abuse. Like I would not. That is my hell.
So today we're going to talk all about Ozempic and its effects within beauty and the beauty industry.
And we're going to get into all the different variations, Ozempic, semaglutide, Mounjaro, the new one, Zepbound. But let's just break it down.
Beauty standards can definitely be a trend, and they're definitely cyclical, like we were talking about. But Ozempic in particular feels like it is fast tracking this obsession with being thin.
I think it's because it's so easy now. You know, back in the day, people had to work out, they had to diet. If anyone has ever been on a diet, I don't recommend it, but it's miserable. You know, you're just hungry all the time, hungry and tired all the time. So let's just kick things off. So is it more stigma? Is it more status symbol? You know, I feel like when Ozempic was first kind of getting popular, it was always like little whispers everywhere, kind of like just the Hollywood elite. If you know, this like special drug you can only get from your doctor.
It came onto the scene in 2023. And I remembered when it first like arrived, basically, because like you said, everyone was like, hey, like, did you know you can kind of get this like off script thing to help you lose weight? And it was really hush hush.
But I kind of feel like that whole stigma is fading and people are now just kind of embracing it. You can literally get Ozempic everywhere. And I think it's like what you mentioned earlier with this whole biohacking thing. They're not just saying like, oh, I'm using Ozempic to get skinnier. It's like, I'm also using Ozempic for longevity purposes, to feel better, to feel healthier. Because yeah, you know, a lot of people who are overweight, when you take Ozempic and you feel lighter, you know, you do feel healthier. You are physically getting healthier.
So I agree that there's definitely less stigma than there was in 2023. However, I still find that folks don't necessarily want to disclose that they're on Ozempic.
Yeah, I feel like any celebrity or anybody, they'll just kind of only share if asked. No one, unless I guess you're like a poster child, Serena Williams, they're not just going to like volunteer that information. So yeah, sure. Definitely still some stigma.
And I think it's because of this notion that we're talking about is that it's viewed as a quote unquote easy way to lose weight, right? It's like the fast track way to cut those last few pounds. Or, for some folks, Ozempic is actually a necessity. It really was designed to be a diabetes drug and it's changed lives in that way. But of course, now we have seen the rise of Ozempic for purely weight loss purposes.
And that makes sense. I feel like we see that so many times in beauty, right? Where like real hardcore medicine is kind of co-opted for aesthetic purposes. And when we talk about Ozempic being like designed for diabetes in the beginning, like all it really is, or a GLP-1 is, it's a type of peptide, right? And when you inject it, it helps to just kind of regulate your insulin. But another side effect is that, it can also help you feel a little bit nauseous and just curb feelings of hunger. So when you're feeling nauseous and if you're not feeling hungry, you're going to lose weight.
So let's talk about this GLP-1 Ozempic alphabet soup, because there's a lot of different ones out there.
And I think it's important to note that like, it's kind of like the whole like Advil, aspirin, Tylenol, acetaminophen. There are drug names and there are brand names, but let's just break a couple down and we can start off with Wegovy. And next we have Wegovy, which is also a semaglutide, but this one was designed in 2021 for obesity.
Then in 2022 came Mounjaro, which is a tirzepatide, so not a semaglutide. And I think this is what really kind of kicked off this trend of writing off script labels for weight loss, because Mounjaro was actually initially used specifically for diabetes.
And what really turned into was an arms race, because after Mounjaro was Zepbound, another tirzepatide, and everyone's kind of whispering that like this Eli Lilly version is going to be like kind of the go-to, the gold standard. Because as you can tell, like as the years go by, the drugs get better. So, we often get asked so many beauty questions, wellness, lifestyle, and a lot of people ask us like, how do people, especially in LA, get access to these drugs? And there's kind of like a few main major channels. So in the beginning, people would only get access to kind of your main channels, standard of care in working with your doctor. And it was a pretty long process. So you'd have to see your doctor, tell them, I feel like I'm overweight, I need some help, establish care essentially. And then the doctor would kind of put you through hoops and rings of putting you on diets, getting you signed up with a dietitian, kind of doing all of these steps and quote unquote tests before giving you an actual script.
And during those early few years when Ozempic was still on the rise, oftentimes doctors were writing things off label. So they were using the drugs that were designed for diabetes and using them for the purpose of weight loss. And then as time went on, there became more channels for how you could get access to these GLP-1s. And I think a big one here are med spas.
Oh, yeah.
And in some ways, this makes a lot of sense. You're already at that practitioner for your filler, your Botox, all of these aesthetic things. And so weight loss in general has a lot to do with one's appearance.
Yes. And also these people still have medical licenses, right? Like for the most part, they're nurse practitioners and they have licenses to inject things. So we see it a lot at like med spas, those IV drip places. All of them have different options for GLP-1s.
And then came the boom of the telehealth startups. And I'm looking at Hims and Hers and Ro.
I feel like these are definitely the most controversial, at least in my book, because both of us separately, we went and actually did the kind of telehealth quiz on our own to see if we could get access to GLP-1s. And like, I wouldn't consider myself like super thin. I would consider myself like normal weight, right?
No, we both have normal BMIs.
Yeah, just like normal, not thin, not obese, but I went ahead and did the test on Hims and Hers. And after I did the test, it told me, oh, you have a normal BMI. You're not a good candidate for a GLP-1. And then, I went back, took the test again, added 20 pounds to my weight, and then immediately I was able to purchase products from them.
You want to know something crazy? So I did the test on Ro and I entered my normal body weight, my height, my age. I answered all the questions up to standard. It asked a few questions about like, are you happy with your current appearance or your physical health? I forgot the exact wording, but it did ask essentially like, are you happy the way you are, the way you appear? And so I decided to say, no. What happens if I say, no, I'm not happy with, my normal BMI body and weight? And guess what? It said I was a good candidate for a GLP-1. And I was shocked. It was so easy. It scared me.
What the hell?
Yeah.
That is crazy. So maybe, I guess like Ro has a lower bar to entry than the other ones.
I think so.
Interesting. Because I know like their whole thing, like Hims and Hers, they sell so many different types of things, like hair loss pills, skin creams, like, they're kind of newer in the GLP-1 space, but Ro, I think that's their bread and butter.
So Ro works exclusively with Eli Lilly and they sell Zepbound. And Serena Williams is now their brand ambassador.
I noticed that. And it makes sense, but this is a crazy marketing push if you think about it. Like she has such a dedicated and loyal fan base and such an amazing story to tell. Like she's an athlete.
Sidebar, her husband is on the board of directors for Ro. So that is also very interesting to me.
He has such a good track record of like successful tech ventures. Like Alexis Ohanian, by the way, like he's the co-founder of Reddit, right? So like he's been in the tech space a long, long time. And I guess telehealth is tech. It's like a natural progression.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It's tech plus consumer and essentially and healthcare. It's a trifecta of all these revenue generating things.
And the last one, and this one hit really close to home because, living in LA, the easiest place to go get any kind of medication is Cabo.
Our friendly neighbor, Mexico.
Yeah, it's like a 2-hour flight. And we did a whole episode on medical tourism, but the amount of people that would fly to Mexico and you literally like don't even have to leave the airport. They have pharmacias in the airport and you can go and pick up GLP-1s. You can even get them at the Costco in Cabo.
Costco. Wait, that's insane.
Yeah.
We mentioned Serena Williams, but let's talk about other celebrities who have been confirmed to have used a GLP-1.
Another celebrity who's really open about it, and she honestly has lost so much weight. She looks like a totally different person, but Meghan Trainor, the singer.
Yes, yeah. Rebel Wilson, another one.
Chelsea Handler.
One of my favorite comedians, Tracy Morgan.
Also Lizzo.
Yes, Lizzo. And then 2 more who have said that they have tried Ozempic or a GLP-1, but have stopped using them. Amy Schumer, the comedian.
As well as James Corden. And I was doing a little bit of research as to why they got off of it. Even though you take a GLP-1, it's not 100% guarantee that you're going to lose weight. All it's really going to do is going to make you feel a little nauseous and you're just not going to be as hungry. But for some people, like nausea is not enough for you to stop eating, right? Like a lot of people that are dealing with like weight issues, it's not just hunger, it's also like an emotional thing, a mental thing, a way to kind of curb other feelings. So, if you're having a bad day, even if you're feeling a little bit nauseous or feeling a little bit sick, you can still eat through it. So Ozempic doesn't work for everybody.
I think that's a really fascinating point to note because I think everyone thinks it's this magic Band-Aid that fixes all of the weight issues, but that's not always the case.
And these are celebrities that have actually admitted to using a GLP-1. I feel like there are so many celebrities and influencers that just kind of still gatekeep, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if they're afraid of the stigma, but to me, it's like, if you're going to be a public figure, you have to be authentic or honest. I don't know. I think Mindy Kaling is using a GLP-1.
Oh, yes, yes.
She's literally less than half the size she used to be.
I know. The Kardashians, a lot of folks have suspected that they have been using GLP-1s because sometimes they have to do these rapid weight loss turnarounds for, events. And you're like, come on. What's happening here?
Like, I hate this. We're probably going to get a lot of hate for this one, Sasa. But personally, I think Selena Gomez might be on a GLP-1.
Oh, really?
She has lost a lot of weight lately.
You know what? You're right.
Yeah. And the thing is like a lot of these people, they'll say like, oh, it's diet and exercise. But why do you suddenly look different for the first time in 5 years?
Yes.
Or like, why have you suddenly lost all the weight that you have been dieting and exercising for? And so, I really don't think that there should be a stigma around it. Like, to be honest, if I wasn't trying to get pregnant, I'd give it a go.
Really?
Yeah, I'd give it a go.
You would just try just to see like what effects it would have?
Yeah. And, sure, maybe I would tell people it's for longevity. But no, I think, I don't know. I literally have gone through phases of my life where like I had abs, like I was like fit and I miss them sometimes,
Yeah.
Like I have a closet full of crop tops that are kind of like off limits right now, but like I get it. Like I don't want to like glamorize thinness in any way. And like you can wear a crop top at any size, but like I feel like every woman can relate to wanting to lose. I feel like every woman in the world will say that they'd be happy to lose 3 to 5 pounds.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yes, everyone. I'm not even ashamed to admit that. I think that's a universal feeling.
It's like a universal truth,
Yeah.
I think. Like nobody likes the way their upper arms look in any given photo. Like anyone would be down to lose 3 to 5 pounds at any given moment. And that's what a lot of the celebrities are doing, right? Like a lot of them, it's just a little bit of vanity weight.
So Julia, all this sounds so incredible and amazing. And I'm like, oh my God, sign me up for this Ozempic train.
Arms.
Yes, skinny arms. Here we come. But I don't think enough people talk about the skin and body fallout that comes with GLP-1 use.
We've all kind of heard like whisperings of like Ozempic Face. So what is Ozempic Face?
Ozempic Face happens when you have this rapid weight loss and your skin starts to sag and your face starts to look gaunt.
When you look at some photos of people, you'll see that they look a little more hollow, if that makes sense. Like especially like in the eye and the cheek and specifically like right here on the jawline, a lot of jowling tends to happen with Ozempic Face. And it makes sense with this rapid weight loss because the skin, yes, it is designed to stretch and grow and kind of have this elasticity to it. But rapid weight loss often leads to your skin not being able to snap back as the rest of your body gets smaller, right? So in other places of the body, when this happens, you can get things like stretch marks, right? So if you lose a rapid amount of weight or if you gain amount of weight, stretch marks are basically scarring. But you're not necessarily getting that on the face level, but the skin, it's kind of like if you have this big full balloon full of water and then you know, that's like your skin. And then if you let all of that water out, you'll kind of end up with a little bit of like a shriveled balloon at the end of the day. And if you were to let the water out slowly in an ideal world, you wouldn't be as shriveled. And that's just kind of what Ozempic Face is.
But did you know that GLP-1s cause 80% of fat loss, but 20% of connective tissue loss? So that's stuff like collagen, elastin, all the good things that we want to look good and younger.
And if you've learned anything from our pod, you know that you cannot just like regrow and replace collagen and elastin very easily. So when you're like losing that quickly, you're going to be like SOL. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that you can also get really dehydrated on Ozempic. So that can make you look dry, make you look dull. And your dehydrated skin is also going to make like all those fine lines just look a lot more apparent. Because one thing doctors will recommend that all of their patients do on a GLP-1 is to like up their protein and also increase their water intake. And I feel like most people already aren't drinking as much water as they should be. So imagine you're on a GLP-1, you're already not hitting your water goals. You then have to drink more water. You are going to look like a raisin.
Another fun side effect that I don't think a lot of people realize is that GLP-1s can cause hormonal acne flare-ups. And it's because our hormones are stored in our fat.
Yeah, it's stored in your adipose tissue. So when you lose the fat really quickly and then kind of get rid of those hormones, your body's going to react and try and create a lot more hormones, just creating this like crazy fluctuation that's going to lead to things like hormonal breakout.
You mentioned how doctors will tell patients that they have to up their protein intake. It's because it also creates a nutrient deficiency within your body.
Yeah, you're eating a lot less.
And remember that there is a huge gut-skin connection. The microbiome in your gut, it affects everything. Plus, our skin has its own unique microbiome. So you know that adage, you are what you eat? I mean, it really rings true.
But we got to say that this doesn't necessarily apply across the board. In certain cases, for certain individuals, Ozempic will make your skin better, right? Like you'll be eating healthier, you'll be sleeping better, you know, it's going to change your life. You'll be more active. Those are all things that are great for your skin. But that really kind of only applies to people that are in the very overweight camp where they need a little bit of weight loss to achieve a healthier lifestyle.
If you're clinically obese, Ozempic and GLP-1s will help you. Overall, it will increase your lifespan. It will help your body, your skin, everything all around. It's the folks who are using it for purely aesthetic purposes and not necessarily health reasons. Given the rising popularity of Ozempic and GLP-1s, it's only a matter of time that all these ripple effects would hit the beauty industry. And guess what? The beauty market is watching.
And they're listening and they're ready to sell you more things.
So let's break down some of the ripple effects that we are seeing and expect to see more of as GLP-1s become more and more popular in the mainstream.
So we'll kick it off with skincare. And so, I mean, these things are already really popular, but a lot of brands are going to start doubling down on it. But it's going to be hydrators, collagen stimulators, and antioxidants, because these are things that people under GLP-1s are going to start to lack as they get Ozempic Face.
I think we're also going to see a rise in aesthetic cosmetic procedures. There was a period of time where filler fell out of favor because people were overfilling their faces. But with the rise of Ozempic Face, where things are starting to look very hollow and you need to fill things back out from all that rapid weight loss, I think we're going to see a lot more filler and fat injections around the face.
And also facelifts, even mini facelifts, because with that gelling, when it happens in areas like this, like, there's not any amount of skincare that can tighten the skin along your jawline again. And really the only solution is going to be to nip and tuck.
I feel like plastic surgeons are going to have a freaking field day with this. We've already heard anecdotally among some surgeons that because of the rise of GLP-1s, they've seen an uptick in these procedures to fix Ozempic Face.
And when it comes to facelifts, like you have people like Kris Jenner who's getting facelifts in their 70s, but now plastic surgeons, they're telling us that they're seeing patients as young as 20.
We're also going to see a rise in certain devices and treatments.
And I think this is going to be a mix of like at home and in office, but it's really important to note that like a lot of times with Ozempic, your skin can feel a little bit sensitive as well as dry. So you're not really going to be the ideal candidate for things like whether it's like a microneedling or maybe like an intense chemical peel, but things like ultrasound therapy, radio frequency, LED, these can all be really good options and like potential collagen stimulators for people dealing with this.
And also lymphatic drainage.
Yeah, not just for like the body, but like also like on the face, gua sha. I think it's going to we're going to see a lot more of it.
So all these GLP-1s have been injections so far, but the Ozempic pill is slated to come onto the market by next year. And I think this is really going to change the game in terms of accessibility and usage of GLP-1s.
Yeah, it's also going to make them a lot cheaper and a lot more affordable. Because, we were talking about stigma, but like also for a lot of these people using it, they're paying out of pocket like $1,000 plus a month.
Yes.
Right? Because like their insurance, their doctor may write the script, but their insurance isn't necessarily going to cover it. But anything in a pill form is going to be infinitely cheaper. And I don't know, I have a little prediction.
Oh, tell.
Especially as like brands get into this whole like GLP-1s and longevity, I feel like we're going to see like a rise in pill cutters, like not just on Amazon, but I bet you like maybe like a bougie brand comes out with their own like GLP-1 pill cutter, like, that's like really aesthetic that you can like leave out on your vanity.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're right. Because just in the same way that I feel like LA folks, we love microdosing. Everyone microdoses shrooms. They microdose everything under the sun. I think people are going to start microdosing Ozempic pills.
If you care about your face and if you don't want sagging skin, creping skin, or jowling, because again, skincare cannot fix that. The only thing you can do is microdose.
To gradually lose it. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to take their little Ozempic pills, cut them in half, cut them in a quarter, and I don't know, just like pop them with their Erewhon smoothies. Yeah.
This is a dystopian world we're going to live in.
I know, a very thin dystopian world. Oh my gosh. So now that we're kind of coming to a close, I do want to circle back on something that we were first talking about with like Ozempic and thinness being a trend, like a body aesthetic being just a trend. What are your thoughts on this?
I love human anthropology and culture. So I like to think about this from like a historical context, right? I remember taking art history. I'm taking us way back. When I took art history in college, and do you remember, you took art history. You were our history major.
I was our history major.
Yeah. There was a figure that was considered sort of like the first sculpture ever created by like humankind.
Venus de Milo.
Exactly. It's this tiny little fat chubby, to me, it's like kind of cute, fat, chubby woman. It's a naked woman's body, but it's super, super curvaceous to the point where like this is not a beauty standard in today's society. But back then, that was considered the most appealing figure of a woman.
Yeah, there's like that. There's a painter, Rubens. He loved a full-bodied woman. But when it comes to these kind of like trends, being big, being thin, being big, because when the whole like BBL trend of the 2010s was going on, like the thing is like people were getting implants and injections and then also now removing them, right? So like, what are you going to do post Ozempic? Just like eat again? Like what comes after that? Because, you can remove the implants and there've been tons of instances where people like will remove their big like breast implants and then replace them with a smaller implant, right?
So then I think about breast augmentations. So there was a time when, very large breasts were considered the most attractive. So
The 90s.
yes, the 90s, which is so funny because it's kind of counter.
So they like the stick thin and the big boobies.
You're right. And a flat butt. I forgot about
Yes.
that.
And the very flat butt. Like I'm
Yes.
thinking like Pam Anderson,
Yes.
right? Like she was the ideal
Yes.
female form.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
But, so there was that rise of like very large breasts. And then we've also seen this rise of women getting breast reductions. They're not only removing their implants, but they're also reducing their cup size. So there is this oscillation between big and then small and then big and then small. But you're right. This is like such a silly analogy, but I think about fashion because I used to work in fashion. If you take a skirt and you want to make it short, you hem it and you make it short, it's all good. If you want to make that skirt long again, you are SOL because you can't grow fabric back out. It's a similar fashion, right? With like this rapid weight loss. I do think though, people might think that they can still augment their bodies, right? Like add some more filler, add some more fat injections to round out certain parts of the body. How realistic that is a whole different story, but
a part of me thinks that, I don't know, is the next trend after getting thin to like get super buff, right?
Oh,
like with
yeah.
bodybuilders, watch this happen, right? But bodybuilders will go through like the cutting phase and then the bulking phase, and like maybe muscles will be in next. Cause like one thing that's always been proven true is that it's always got to be like super unattainable, whatever the body goal is. Like being super thin, being super curvaceous. Like being super curvaceous is really hard. I can't tell you how many like Kim Kardashian booty workouts I did in my lifetime to try, like, what was I thinking? But like unattainable is a key word here. And so like building muscle is like no easy feat. So maybe since it's so easy to get thin now, they'll make building muscle the next thing.
When it comes to things like curves and also even muscle gain, a lot of this is genetic. I don't think people realize it sometimes. Like even if you want to have what is quote unquote the ideal body type, your genes might just tell you you cannot do that. For some people, I know it is very hard for them to build muscle, let's say like on their legs or on their arms, certain parts of their body. And if they look at their family, you can kind of see it's in their genes.
Oh, for sure. Like, like if you look at any model, like a good majority of the time, like either their mother was a model, their aunt was a model, like it kind of runs in the genes. Out of all the sports in the world, like which sport has the most relatives in the same sport?
Which sport?
NBA, basketball.
Oh, the height.
Yeah, because you got to be like freakishly tall, like, and that's a gene that kind of like runs in the family. So they all kind of have that like that aesthetic or like that build.
Remember Yao Ming? Duh. His parents are ginormous.
And he married a ginormous woman.
I know. So they're going to carry that bloodline.
Yes. Breeders.
This factoid is ringing true.
No, it's like definitely true. Like out of all the sports, like, there'll be so many like cousins and, like in basketball specifically.
Yeah.
And another thing we touched on, but we got to get a little bit deeper is this whole like, is Ozempic, is it more for vanity? Is it more for biohacking, longevity? What's your take?
Well, let's talk about this because I think this is a more recent marketing spin that people are trying to put on this, that it is a wellness thing. And I think wellness is a wonderful term. It can really be co-opted in any way you choose. It's like a pick your own adventure, right? Like meditation could be wellness, journaling could be wellness. Watching TV could be my wellness because it
totally, or like eating like a cheat meal can be wellness because it makes you happy, right?
Yes.
Like anything can technically be wellness.
Exactly. And so this is where I feel like people are pushing the line of what wellness is by saying that this is quote unquote biohacking or for longevity. That's what they said about intermittent fasting. And yes, in some ways, intermittent fasting is good for your health, but the correlation between taking a drug to lose weight and actual health benefits, if you don't necessarily need to lose that weight, I don't know, that feels like a bit of a stretch to me.
Yeah, but like if you ask a super intense, like biohacking bro, like that type of person, they'll all kind of like pull up these reports of like, they have these like blue zones where like people live the longest and have the highest quality of life. And like the biggest takeaway is that they're all they're all thin, right? And so like they kind of lean into that camp, like they'll kind of stretch the importance of thinness. Even if you listen to interviews with like Gwyneth Paltrow, she'll always talk about like thin and how thin is healthy. So, even though it's still like weight loss, and yes, it is a vanity metric for sure, but they will find ways to point it to science, whether like you'll live longer, you recover from disease faster, lower risk of disease, that kind of stuff.
And that's definitely true.
Yeah.
But I think the irony to that argument is that in some ways, taking a GLP-1 is cheating, especially amongst the biohacking bros. Like if you've ever met a real biohacking bro. This is the guy who is going to bed at like 7 o'clock at night, waking up at 3 a.m., taking a turmeric ginger shot with their green juice and whatever the heck is all mixed up in there, doing some crazy ass workout. Like they are not necessarily cutting corners. They're just trying to find ways to optimize. And so in some ways, I could see this being a little bit like it's a hack code, which I guess biohacking is the word.
But they're taking it like to another level, right?
Exactly.
Because like so many people in this like mega healthy realm, like, you know, they already eat incredibly clean. They work out incredibly well. So it is, I guess it's like biohacking to another level. I don't know, a subculture within a subculture, right?
I guess so. We can get really niche if you want to.
Also in the 2010s, there was this whole kind of body positivity moment where, you know, people were really embracing their curves, their natural figures, like really being like anti-diet culture. But, you know, I kind of feel like society is now saying that was a trend and that it was a movement for a period of time, but it kind of wasn't here to stay for a long time. And I feel like GLP-1s definitely help like usher it out a little bit faster than it might have been ready for.
I also think there's a greater cultural shift happening too. Like I think about the recent American Eagle campaign with Sydney Sweeney, and American Eagle during the 2010s, they were really having their heyday because they launched Aerie, which is like, you know, their underwear and lingerie company.
With like the no photo retouching.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they were so like crazy for doing that.
I know. And they were using like quote unquote real women as models, like all various body shapes. And then they took a hard left and leaned into sexy time. And they went a little bit more, you know, mainstream, I guess. One could say that this is all ushered in by GLP-1s, but I think the cultural conversation has also just shifted back to sexy.
Yeah. So for me, it wasn't so much American Eagle. It was Victoria's Secret coming back.
And that too.
Yeah. Like, because like for the longest time, like when we were growing up, Victoria's Secret was like the apex of what women should look like, right? Like the most ideal human female form, right? Was supposed to be a Victoria's Secret model. But then they kind of got canceled during this body positivity moment. They stopped doing their iconic runway shows. And, you know, they tried to do a little bit of a comeback. People were saying that like, oh, you know, you were leaning like we missed the supermodel era. And now they are coming back with like kind of the old school supermodel Gisele Bündchen, Miranda Kerr body types.
Yeah. So their new CEO, she's really turning things around. I think the previous CEO who was trying to fix everything was because also remember their former CEO, Lex, he was tied to Jeffrey Epstein. So that was just like not good press. They're like, this is not the time to be sexy right now.
Yeah. Like we got to do what the women want. The women want body positivity.
Yes.
We'll bring it in. But then I think they were kind of realizing that their sales weren't doing really well. So like, you know, they got to bring pink carpet back out and do the full, you know, fashion show.
So I got a big question for you, Julia. Do you think Ozempic is going to bring about like basically the next $1 billion beauty industry boom in a similar way that like Botox did?
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's so crazy. Like Botox back in the day was a little like whisper miracle drug that only the elite will getting. And now you can go into any small town in America and get Botox. And I feel like it's going to be the same with Ozempic. I feel like there might even be like Ozempic vending machines, right? Like, but it's also been shown that like the US government is in favor of Ozempic because it's kind of like a health issue, even more than like a vanity issue. I think they kind of view it as both, but I think most Americans are going to kind of view it as vanity.
It's no secret. Obesity is a huge epidemic within the United States. So of course, this is a big health concern. Like people who are clinically obese are more likely to have heart disease, diabetes, like long-term diseases that are going to shorten your life expectancy.
Yeah, I feel like in a couple of years, Ozempic's going to be like getting candy. I don't know. Maybe they'll even have like an OTC version.
It'll be like a vitamin everyone takes.
Yeah, with their pill cutter, with their designer pill cutter.
So with the rise of Ozempic and GLP-1s, we started off with a stigma, then there was a little bit of a rebrand and people are embracing it more, albeit still gatekeeping a bit. But we're going to see, and we're going to continue to see this rise in the ripple effects across the beauty industry, not only in these in-office procedures to treat the side effects of Ozempic Face,
but also in fashion, favoring a thin physique. Like literally, I feel like the beauty industry is just going to kind of find ways to capitalize on this movement. And again, we mentioned a few ways that skincare can really help with Ozempic Face and things like that. But, you know, I think we're really just at the beginning of what this is going to turn into.
Yeah, the beauty standard is literally changing right in front of our eyes. You guys, we want to hear it from you. Tell us if you've seen Ozempic Face on your feed on social media.
And also, if you've taken Ozempic or a GLP-1, we want to know what it's like, right? Like, we don't have that firsthand experience.
You guys, be sure to leave us a comment below.
And as always, our DMs are open.
If you guys want to learn more about our thoughts on Ozempic and its effects on the beauty industry, be sure to check out this piece in Business of Fashion, quoting us, GlowJob, on our thoughts.
I love how we're becoming like thought leaders in this space. We had Forbes on beauty and biohacking, Business of Fashion. We're on a roll.
I love it.
Thank you so much for watching.
And be sure to tune in next week for another episode of GlowJob.